Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Welcome to another deep dive, and this one is a real nail biter.
Oh.
Yeah, we're heading to Shepherd Grove.
Right.
It's this seemingly quiet town with a dark secret. You probably heard about the Evelyn March case.
The artist?
Yeah, the disappearance and murder of her.
Oh, right, yeah. That's the one that unravels like a spider web, each thread leading to like another layer of intrigue, jealousy, and then tragedy.
That's a good way to put it. So, okay, we've got witness testimonies, forensic reports, and even journal entries.
Wow.
It's a whole treasure trove of information to go through.
So what's the mission for this deep dive?
Well, we need to piece together her story, from her disappearance all the way to the resolution. It's pretty shocking.
Okay.
So are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So first, we need to set the scene. Shepherd Grove, rolling hills, charming houses.
Sounds idyllic.
It does.
Hmm.
But then you've got these vast cornfields. They seem to just stretch on forever. And, it's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone's business. Secrets don't stay buried for long.
Small town life.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the heart of it all is Evelyn March.
Right. She lived in this rambling Victorian farmhouse on the outskirts of town, kind of hidden away amongst those cornfields.
Kind of spooky.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the mystery. I mean, that isolation, that sense of being on the fringe, that's what I think makes this case so unsettling.
Right.
So Evelyn was this incredibly gifted artist, known for her really unique style
Okay.
and her ability to just capture the beauty of the natural world.
Oh, interesting.
Weeks before she disappeared, she completed a series of paintings inspired by insects.
Insects.
Yeah, they were really cool.
Okay. So what was the series called?
Echoes of the Unseen.
Echoes of the Unseen. Interesting. And it sounds like it generated quite a buzz.
It did. Collectors wanted her work. Critics were praising her originality. It seems like she was finally getting the recognition she deserved.
But success often comes at a price. And I think Evelyn's rising fame stirred up some dark emotions in Shepherd Grove,
Yeah.
particularly among the other artists.
The green-eyed monster.
Yeah, exactly.
So who are the key players in this tangled web of jealousy and deceit?
Well, first we have Roger Clay,
Okay.
a talented artist himself, but he struggled to gain the same level of recognition as Evelyn.
It sounds like he saw her success as a direct threat to his own ambition.
Yeah.
Like her talent was a mirror, reflecting his own insecurity.
Exactly. And, his resentment simmered. He'd often make these snide remarks about Evelyn's work, both online and in person.
Oh, wow. So it was clear that their rivalry went beyond healthy competition.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Then there's Tara Lawson. She and Evelyn were supposedly close friends,
Right.
but their relationship had become strained in the months leading up to Evelyn's disappearance. Tara was also an artist, and it seems that she felt overshadowed by Evelyn's success.
Did she ever express this resentment?
Oh, yeah. Witnesses recall Tara making these passive-aggressive comments, downplaying her achievements. She'd even hint that Evelyn was getting preferential treatment from galleries and critics.
Wow, talk about a toxic friendship.
Yeah. So we've got two artists, both harboring resentment toward Evelyn. One, a bitter rival, and the other, a jealous friend.
But wait, there's more.
Oh.
We also have Matthew Ross,
Okay.
a wealthy art collector who was absolutely obsessed with Evelyn's work.
Obsessed how?
Well, he'd been buying her paintings for years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and had even commissioned several pieces. He saw her talent as an investment, you see.
Right?
He wanted to have exclusive rights to all her future work, so he was trying to control her art and potentially her career.
That does sound like that guy.
And when Evelyn started getting attention from other collectors, Matthew became, possessive, even threatening.
This guy sounds like trouble. So we've got a jealous rival, a resentful friend, and a possessive collector. This is quite the lineup of suspects.
And let's not forget Sophie Harrington.
Oh, right, yeah. The art critic.
Right. The one whose reviews could make or break an artist's career.
Was she a fan of Evelyn's work?
Not exactly.
Really?
Yeah, she publicly criticized Evelyn's Echoes of the Unseen series, called it derivative and lacking depth.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So she had a motive to want to see Evelyn's career disappear. Maybe even Evelyn herself.
It's certainly a possibility, especially considering Sophie's reputation. She was known for being ruthless and vindictive towards artists who didn't meet her standards.
All right, so we have 4 individuals with very different connections to Evelyn, but each with their own potential motives for wanting her out of the picture.
And the story takes a chilling turn when Evelyn attends a local gallery showcase, the very same one where her Echoes of the Unseen series is on display.
Oh, I bet the tension in that room was thick enough to cut with a knife.
Yeah, you're not wrong. According to witnesses, the atmosphere was electric. Evelyn was the center of attention. But amidst all the praise and the admiration, there were undercurrents of jealousy and resentment.
It sounds like the perfect breeding ground for conflict.
And conflict there was.
Yeah.
Roger Clay, fueled by alcohol and his own bitterness, confronted Evelyn, publicly criticized her work, and accused her of stealing his ideas.
Did she defend herself?
She did, but Roger wouldn't back down. The argument escalated, and it drew the attention of everyone in the gallery. It was a spectacle that left Evelyn shaken and humiliated.
So we have a public confrontation, accusations flying, a whole room full of potential witnesses. It's like a scene straight out of a psychological thriller.
And that's not all. Remember those teenage witnesses who claimed to have seen a shadowy figure lurking near Evelyn's property that night?
Oh, yeah. They mentioned feeling like they were being watched, too. That's creepy.
Yeah, it sounds like the tension from the gallery spilled over into something much more sinister.
This is where things start to take a dark turn.
You're right, because the next morning, Evelyn was nowhere to be found.
What?
Her easel was still set up, paints were out, but the artist herself had vanished. No trace.
It's like she stepped out of her life and left a canvas of unanswered questions.
And those unanswered questions would soon lead investigators down a very winding path, uncovering secrets, lies, and a truth far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined.
So Evelyn's vanished, studio's untouched, but she's gone.
Just like that.
Yeah, it's like she disappeared into those cornfields, swallowed up by the very landscape that inspired her art.
The initial search efforts were extensive. Volunteers combed the area, police dogs, sniffed every trail, but nothing. No sign of her.
I bet the rumors about, was it cornfield shadows or something, started swirling again, adding to all the unease.
Oh, absolutely. Those old tales, whispered from generation to generation. Well, they suddenly took on a new meaning, chilling relevance.
With no obvious leads, the police had their work cut out for them.
They did.
But luckily, they had a secret weapon in their corner.
Oh, who was that?
Dr. Lydia Hale, a forensic entomologist. She had a deep connection to Shepherd Grove.
So she wasn't just a scientist, she was kind of a detective in her own right.
Right. And what's fascinating is she brought this unique perspective to the investigation, not just because of her expertise in insects,
Oh, okay.
but also because of her own personal history with unsolved disappearances in Shepherd Grove.
Wait, really?
Yeah, years ago, some of Lydia's childhood friends vanished without a trace.
Oh, wow.
And those cases were never solved, and it left a lasting impact on her. She dedicated her career to forensic entomology. She was determined to use her knowledge to bring closure to families who'd lost loved ones in unexplained circumstances.
That's powerful. So how did she approach this case? Did she find anything significant at Evelyn's farmhouse?
Oh, yeah. Right away, Lydia noticed something peculiar. In Evelyn's studio, remember those jars filled with insects?
Yeah.
They weren't just random specimens. They were meticulously arranged, almost like a code. Like Evelyn was trying to leave a message, but in a language only she and the insects understood.
It's a chilling thought. So to decipher this code, Lydia delved into Evelyn's journals, looking for any clues that might connect those specimens to specific locations or even events.
And she found something.
Really?
Yeah. Her journals contained sketches of various insects, each one labeled with these symbols that seemed to correspond to the jars in her studio. And alongside the sketches were these cryptic notes, observations about the behavior of certain species.
Okay, so we have jars of insects, cryptic symbols, and a missing artist. Starting to feel like a detective novel with a supernatural twist.
But there was nothing supernatural about Lydia's approach. She meticulously studied each insect, analyzing their habits, their life cycles, the environments they thrived in.
And that's where those rare beetles come in, right? The ones found at both Evelyn's studio and near Roger Clay's residence?
Exactly. Those beetles were key. They only thrived in a very specific type of soil, one that was rich in iron oxide. And Lydia knew this because she'd encountered this species before, during her research into the unsolved disappearances from her childhood.
So this rare beetle, a marker of tragedy from her past, resurfaces in Evelyn's case. It's like a grim echo.
Yeah. A thread connecting two mysteries separated by time.
And that connection deepened when soil analysis revealed traces of that same iron oxide-rich soil in a secluded area within the vast cornfields surrounding Evelyn's property.
So the insects were pointing toward a specific location, a place the initial search teams might have overlooked.
It was a breakthrough, gave the investigation a much-needed jolt of momentum. But Lydia wasn't the only one making progress. Remember Detective Ortiz? She'd been diligently piecing together the digital trail left by the suspects.
Ah, yes, Detective Ortiz, this sharp-minded investigator who doesn't miss a detail. So what did she uncover?
She managed to retrieve those deleted text messages, the ones between Roger Clay and Tara Lawson. And let me tell you, those messages were damning.
Okay, spill the tea. What do they say?
They revealed a shared hatred for Evelyn, fueled by jealousy, resentment. In those messages, they talked about wanting to see her taken down a peg, fantasized about her career crashing and burning. They even discussed ways to, sabotage her upcoming exhibitions.
Wow. But wanting someone to fail, is that the same as wanting them dead? How do investigators even distinguish between malicious intent and actual premeditation?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Separating hateful words from murderous actions. But those messages, they certainly added to the growing suspicion surrounding Roger and Tara. And as the digital trail unraveled, it revealed this pattern of escalating animosity, with their messages becoming increasingly aggressive and threatening in the days leading up to Evelyn's disappearance.
It's like they were feeding off of each other's jealousy,
Yeah,
pushing each other further down this dark path.
precisely. And their digital footprints weren't the only thing incriminating them. Remember those paint chips found in Roger's van? The ones that matched Evelyn's palette? Further analysis revealed traces of soil on those chips. Soil that matched the unique composition found in that secluded area of the cornfield.
Okay, that's pretty incriminating. It's like the evidence was starting to converge, pointing towards a very chilling possibility.
And that possibility became a horrifying reality when a local farmer, while plowing his field, stumbled upon something buried amongst the rows of corn. A shallow grave.
Oh my God. This must have been devastating for the community, especially for Lydia. She was so invested in finding Evelyn alive.
It was a heartbreaking discovery. And as investigators carefully excavated the grave, they unearthed not only Evelyn's body, but some of her canvases as well, the ones she'd been working on the night she disappeared.
It's like her art was buried with her, a final tragic testament to her talent.
And the condition of those canvases provided even more clues. They were damaged, scratched, smeared with soil, suggesting a struggle, a desperate attempt to fight back against her attacker.
So the missing person case becomes a murder investigation, and the town's worst fears are confirmed. What happened next?
With the discovery of Evelyn's body, the investigation intensified. Lydia, determined to bring her killer to justice, focused on the entomological evidence. Remember those rare beetles? Well, she discovered they had a very short lifespan, only about a week. And based on the developmental stage of the beetles found on Evelyn's body and the buried canvases, she was able to narrow down the time of death to a very specific window.
That's incredible. So those tiny creatures, often overlooked and dismissed, held the key to unlocking the timeline of the crime.
They did, and that time frame, it perfectly aligned with Roger and Tara's suspicious activities, their incriminating text messages, and the presence of the iron oxide-rich soil on the paint chips found in Roger's van.
It's all starting to come together. The puzzle pieces are falling into place, revealing a very grim picture of jealousy, betrayal, and a murderous conspiracy.
Exactly. And with this newfound certainty, Detective Ortiz moved swiftly, obtaining warrants for the arrest of Roger Clay and Tara Lawson.
Okay, this is where the story takes a dramatic turn. Tell me about the arrests.
Well, the arrest of Roger Clay was like something out of an action movie. When officers arrived at his house, he tried to flee, but he was quickly apprehended, paint tubes scattering everywhere as he was tackled to the ground.
It's almost symbolic. His art supplies, the tools of his passion, scattered amidst the chaos of his downfall.
And Tara's arrest was equally dramatic, though in a quieter way. She was found in her studio, surrounded by these unfinished canvases that would forever be overshadowed by the darkness of her deeds.
It's a heartbreaking image. Two talented artists, consumed by jealousy and ambition, their lives and careers shattered by their own choices. But what about the other two suspects, Matthew and Sophie? Where do they fit into all of this?
Well, remember those discrepancies in Matthew Ross's alibi? Turns out he did leave the charity gala early that night, but not to harm Evelyn. He'd received an urgent call from his ailing mother and had rushed to be by her side. He was devastated by Evelyn's death, both because he admired her talent and because he'd lost a valuable investment.
Okay, so the obsessed collector was actually a devoted son. What about Sophie Harrington? Did those holes in her alibi lead to anything substantial?
Sophie, it turned out, was just as ruthless in her personal life as she was in her art criticism. Those discrepancies in her social media timeline fabricated. She'd created a false narrative to make herself seem more popular, more influential.
So she was more concerned with her image than with actual facts. But did she have anything to do with Evelyn's murder?
Despite her questionable character, Sophie had a solid alibi for the night of Evelyn's disappearance. She was, believe it or not, attending a pottery class, trying to tap into her own creative side.
Wow. That's ironic. The art critic who ridiculed Evelyn's work was secretly trying her hand at art herself.
It seems she had a hidden creative spark, but it was buried beneath layers of cynicism and ambition.
So with Roger and Tara behind bars and Matthew and Sophie cleared of suspicion, the long road to justice began. Tell me about the trial. Was it as dramatic as the arrests?
The trial was a media frenzy, Shepherd Grove becoming the epicenter of a story that captivated the nation. Reporters flocked to the small town, eager to cover every twist and turn of the case.
I can only imagine the pressure on the prosecution, knowing that the whole country was watching.
The prosecution's case was strong, built on a foundation of forensic evidence, digital footprints, and witness testimonies, all painted a pretty damning picture of Roger and Tara's motives and actions.
And what about the defense? Did they have any leverage?
The defense attorneys tried to poke holes in the prosecution's case, arguing that the evidence was, circumstantial, and that the text messages, while distasteful, didn't prove intent to kill. They claimed that Roger and Tara were victims of their own words, that their jealousy had been misinterpreted as premeditation.
So they were trying to create reasonable doubt, to suggest that Evelyn's death was a tragic accident, not a planned murder.
But the prosecution had an ace up their sleeve, Dr. Lydia Hale. Her testimony was crucial, especially when she explained the significance of the entomological evidence.
Tell me about her testimony. How did she present such complex scientific information to a jury that might not be familiar with forensic entomology?
Lydia was a master storyteller. She used clear language, vivid analogies, even visual aids to explain the life cycle of those rare beetles, their peculiar habitat, and how they had, in a way, led her to Evelyn's final resting place.
It must have been a powerful moment, watching this scientist, driven by her own personal experiences, use her knowledge to bring clarity to such a tragic event.
It was. Her testimony silenced the courtroom. Even the most cynical observers were captivated by her passion and expertise.
And in the end, justice was served.
It was. Roger Clay, overwhelmed by the weight of the evidence and perhaps by a flicker of remorse, confessed to the murder. He described how his jealousy had spiraled out of control, how his resentment towards Evelyn had consumed him, leading to a confrontation that ended tragically.
So the truth came out, but at a terrible cost. A life lost, a community shattered, and two artists forever defined by their darkest impulses.
It was a somber reminder that even in the pursuit of art, the line between passion and obsession can be perilously thin.
And what about Tara? What was her fate?
The jury found Tara guilty of complicity to murder. She'd played a role, however small, in the events that led to Evelyn's death. She was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, a consequence of her choice to feed the flames of Roger's jealousy instead of extinguishing them.
The trial concluded, but the echoes of Evelyn's murder continued to reverberate through Shepherd Grove. What happened to the town after the dust settled?
Shepherd Grove was left to grapple with the loss of a talented artist, a friend, a neighbor. The trial had exposed the dark undercurrents of jealousy and ambition that had been simmering beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic community.
And what about Lydia? Did she stay in Shepherd Grove?
She did. She felt a sense of responsibility to the community, to help them heal, to honor Evelyn's memory.
So she found a way to channel her grief into action, to use her expertise to make a positive impact on the town that had been so deeply affected by this tragedy.
She did. She partnered with local organizations to create a safe space for artists, a place where they could express themselves freely, receive support, and nurture their talents without fear of judgment or competition.
It's a beautiful tribute to Evelyn, a way to ensure that her legacy lives on, not in darkness, but in the light of creativity and community.
And in a way, Lydia finally found closure to the unsolved disappearances that had haunted her childhood. By helping to bring Evelyn's killers to justice and by working to create a safer, more supportive environment for artists, she had, in a way, honored the memory of those lost children, proving that even in the face of unspeakable darkness, the pursuit of truth and healing could prevail.
We've journeyed through the twists and turns of this case, from Evelyn's disappearance to the courtroom revelations, and finally, the resolution. It's a story that's really stuck with me.
It has with me too. And it's a reminder, even in places like Shepherd Grove, darkness can fester beneath the surface. Jealousy, ambition, resentment. Powerful motivators. And in this case, they led to a devastating outcome.
Evelyn's art was inspired by the hidden connections in nature, but ironically, it revealed the dark connections within her own community.
Right.
It makes you think, what other hidden truths are lurking in plain sight, just waiting to be uncovered?
It reminds us that we're all interconnected. Our lives intertwine in ways we might not realize. And our actions, they can have ripple effects far beyond our immediate circle.
Throughout this deep dive, I've been struck by Dr. Hale's role in all of this. Her expertise in forensic entomology was, well, crucial in piecing together the timeline. But it was her personal connection to Shepherd Grove, her own experience with those unsolved disappearances, that really made her such a compelling figure.
Her dedication to uncovering the truth, her pursuit of justice, was inspiring. She didn't let the darkness consume her. She used it as fuel to illuminate the path towards healing and resolution.
And her decision to stay in Shepherd Grove after the trial, to help the community rebuild, to create that safe haven for artists, it speaks volumes about her character. She transformed her pain into purpose, honoring Evelyn's memory in a way that brought light to a town that had been shrouded in shadows.
It's a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, hope and resilience can emerge, and that even the smallest creatures, like those insects that often go unnoticed, can play a crucial role in revealing the truth, bringing justice to those who have been silenced.
So, as we conclude our deep dive into the echoes of the unseen, I want to leave you with this. Keep listening, keep questioning, and keep seeking those hidden truths that surround us.
Because sometimes the most profound discoveries are hidden in plain sight, waiting for a curious mind and a discerning eye to bring them to light. And remember, even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, always the possibility of healing, and always the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome adversity.